Welcome to the Be Happy Now show. Flex your soul connection muscle and be your inner guide to fulfillment and purpose. I'm Claudia-Sam. If you know that you're here for a bigger reason, this is the place to be. Together, we ditch the self-care guilt and quit the go with less fear and more trust. Tune in to living life in alignment with your full potential. The Be Happy Now show starts now. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Be Happy Now show. I'm Claudia-Sam, your soul connection coach. And I'm really happy today to share my experience of a recent travel and how the old me would have never experienced it this way. And why I wanted to just have this conversation with you is that the way I was being on this trip actually can be applied to any other experience of life. I really felt like I was a new person. I felt free. I felt trusting. I felt me. And the old me would have thought, no, but the old you is you. And I just didn't know what the new me could even look like. So I just wanted to share that with you. And in case you're the planning type, in case you like to check boxes of a to-do list, in case you know that you feel more in control when you are planning things like with your week or when you go traveling, when you are on vacation. If you feel like planning helps you to make sure you get to everything, even at work, well, I want to bring a new perspective to you. And I'm going to share exactly 3 ways that my mindset shifted. And instead of an old thought, what's the new thought that I had, so that you can notice in your own life, okay, is there an area that I can also make these shifts, that I can let go of control a little bit so that the not planning can actually end up like perfection. And by perfection, I mean not planning. I used to think that something that was perfect, something that was, perfection had to be planned and had to be organized and had to be calculated and had to have the list of pros and cons beforehand to kind of evaluate all of the scenarios. Some of my clients told me that when they're laying in bed at night, that they have the overthinking overwhelm because their mind has them want to think of all the scenarios to prevent anything from hitting the fan. The word starts with an S. So the overthinking is just not in service. The over planning, the trying to foresee all of the scenarios, all of the events, all of the things that could happen, because they're not actually going to happen. They're in the future. We don't know what's going to happen. So this trip to the Rockies in Alberta, Canada, in Canmore and Banff, where I used to live in 2018 and 2019, was a total perfect trip. And I wanted to share with you what happened, and so that you can also apply these tips in your own life. So I was walking with my friends, Carrie, Degju, and their dog Momo, and of course, Pierre Michel, my boyfriend, who has been with me for the last 10 years. We were walking along the Bow River in Canmore, and my friends live in an area that I used to not explore that much when I lived there. So it was, I've been there, I've been to their house, I've been walking along that part of the river, yet my mind and my memory of the Bow River was a little bit further down. And I remember that so the old me on a trip like this would have totally said, I need to go at that part of the river. We need to drive a little bit further down and walk starting at this place so that we can do the last end of the river. And as I thought that, I decided to think something else. So, for example, the old thought would have been, I absolutely need to go to that part of the river. When my new thought was, you know what? I know what it looks like over there. Let's explore. Let's be curious. And you will not believe this, but it was so fun. We actually walked by a big herd of elk. Well, big. There weren't 50 this time around, but I'll tell you when I saw another 50 elk. There were probably like 15 elk, big deers. Okay. And you're not supposed to get that close to them because they can be dangerous. They're big, they're nature's wild animals. So we don't usually get close to them unless they're on your land and they are like out your window. That has happened to me before. When I lived in Canmore, it was a basement suite. So my eyes, where my eye level was, when they would walk on on the grass, I would be at their leg level. And so I remember being that close to them back then, but never walking outside. So we walked by them and we were able to just look at them and be with them and observe their behavior. And it was so beautiful and so grounding that if I had kept the belief and the need to control where I was going to go for a walk, because I absolutely would have needed to go down the other path of the river that was familiar to my old self, well, I would have missed that. So that is like one bonus experience. And my Pierre Michel actually told me yesterday, he said, I was surprised that you didn't call this person and that person and make plans with everyone whom you were friends with. He even had a surprise. He had a chat with my friend Carrie and Nicole. They were chatting for my birthday's on January 23rd. And so they had a surprise birthday party chat with Pierre Michel. And he told them, he said, I'm sure that once we get to the plane, she's going to start planning and organizing her schedule. So I'll let you know then if anything changes. Well, turns out I never planned anything. I didn't have a set schedule because my old thought, which is what, he was expecting of me, was I absolutely need to see this person and that person, because if I run into them, they're going to get mad for not telling them that I'm in town. That's my old mindset. And my old mindset also includes, I want to see everybody because I care about everybody. But my new mindset is, if I see these people around in the street, because that's what happens in Canmore and Banff, you see people everywhere that you know. So I thought, if I see these people around, I'll be really excited to share a hug. And I choose to release any guilt because I haven't been in touch with these people in over a year, and yet I still care for them. So that shift in mindset from like, I absolutely need to see these people, to, you know what, I'll be excited to see them and I choose to release any guilt because we exchange energy from afar. We still care about each other. I was there 2 days, 2 full days. So I decided to focus on being in the present moment and not planning allowed for this perfection of seeing elk and my friend gifting me with a float session. Have you ever done that? Float is like it looks like an eggshell, and it has, I don't know how many, a lot of pounds of salt in there, and you're actually floating. You're floating in that big tub, and you can choose to close the lid or the top, of the egg, but I could still stand in it. So it's pretty big. I was honestly afraid that it would be a little claustrophobic and that I would want to get out. And actually, Carrie gifted me with this float. And I remember first thing, I got into the float and then my legs right away, they just lifted up and I felt my balance go back on my back. And I started laughing on my own in the float because I never experienced this kind of support, this kind of letting go, even in the ocean. I mean, for me, I'm like, is a fish going to come and tickle my bum? And so am I not going to see what kind of fish is coming? And so I'm always a little bit tense and not fully letting go in the ocean. And in this float, I was fully letting go. And here's the thing. One of my old thought patterns would have been, okay, well, what do you mean go for an hour float while I'm only here with you for 2 days? What do you mean? 1 hour of self-care during the 2 days that I'm here? This makes no sense. No, I have to fully be with you, look at you for like the 24 hours of daytime that I'll be with you, you know? That was my old self. That is like the energy of lack, of like there's not enough. It's not an energy that I want to be in anymore. And so that was the old me. And the new me is like, this is so fun. I've never gone for a float before. And I'm so happy that I get to have some conscious breathing and self-care time. Thank you for prioritizing this too. That is my new thought pattern. Wow, I get to rest. And cool thing to know. I mean, cool for me. I hope it's cool for you. If it's not, it's cool. At the end of my menstrual cycle, I like to do what I call an honor lodge. And the honor lodge is me going into the tub and setting my intentions for my new cycle, consciously letting go anything from the old cycle that is ending that no longer serves me. And it's also the time for me to just tune in and reaffirm any things that need completion. Any projects that I want to complete, I just kind of tune into them and to their energy. And I bring in the energy of celebration for what I've accomplished during that cycle. And while I was in Canmore, it was the end of my cycle. And the old me would have been like, no, you need to do all these things and be active with your friends. And there's no honor lodge time because you're not at home. And instead, look at that. The opportunity presented itself. Carrie offered me the float. I got to do my honor lodge while I was on this travel and be with other people. And this is often like the obligations that we think we have. And I say we because I know that if you're listening to this, you might be a little bit of a people pleaser. And maybe you're thinking that you no longer want to have that identity or be attached to, pleasing other people. And not going for a float would have been the old me thinking I need to please my friends, that I need to be there every second, and that I can't take an hour for me. And thankfully, I'm friends with people who prioritize that too. And so it gets to be super fun. When I was in Canmore with my boyfriend, he was also super stoked because Carrie and Degju both have fat bikes, and Pierre Michel just loves to go biking. So he got the chance to borrow the fat bikes and go for a few rides. Whereas like the old me would have been like, no, you have to be with us the whole time because we're 2 days there. We have to maximize our time with our friends. He got to do self-care as well. He got to practice what he loves as well. And that to me is the letting go of control. It's the trusting that we don't need to plan. We don't need to stick to old obligations. We don't need to think that we owe anything, anyone, and that by being ourselves, it's enough. And that by being ourselves, we attract the experiences that we want in life. And I was gifted by Pierre Michel a 5-star restaurant that had vegan, like half of their menu was plant-based. It was so cool. It was so precious. And the fun thing was the energy behind the investment in that evening. It was totally different. I saw, even from him, the difference in the spending energy. Instead of being like, oh my gosh, this is going to be expensive. Oh my gosh, what did I do? It was like an expansive of experience. It was a grateful energy of expansion. And that had us be in such joy and in such gratitude of the experience that we had together. So I also like to see it like, wow, the work that I do on myself has ripple effects without me needing to control how other people need to change or need to act and react and be. And it was just so beautiful. And I'm, beyond grateful for that. Another cool thing is that, cool thing. I will rephrase this. My friend, Chantal Leclerc, she was one of my friends when I lived in Canmore. She was one of my yoga students in Banff when I taught at Rocky Mountain Yoga in Banff. And there was another one of my students, Dave. Dave introduced me to Chantal. He said Chantal has stage 4 breast cancer and she needs to take care of herself. And so she started coming to my yoga classes, and she'd never experienced yoga. She'd never really learned how to slow down before. And Chantal came like religiously to my classes every week, and we became friends. She's also French Canadian. And when I got back to Quebec after living out west, she had a house in Quebec, in Quebec City. So Pierre Michel and I would go and we would spend time in her garden and be in her energy. And unfortunately, Chantal passed away in May of 2021. And I attended the funeral by Zoom because of the whole traveling back then that was difficult with COVID. And so when I went to Banff, I had in my energy and in my desire to see the bench that was in memory of her. And it so happened that Dave was biking in Banff, and he was able to meet us while he was biking. He's also a biker with his fat bike going around town. And we got to reunite without planning anything. And he showed us to the bench, and I got to listen to Chantal's music, as she was a musician and a singer. And so I got to listen to her music sitting on the bench, being in the energy of when I met my friend with Dave at Banff, looking at the view of where she used to live. And it was really magical. And if I had I feel like the old me would have planned this and wanted to create a ritual and spend a lot of energy thinking about, okay, what am I going to bring to the bench? What am I going to say? Am I going to dig a hole and plant something? Like, I would have spent a lot of energy planning that. And actually, the magic happened in the present moment. The moment that we decided to drive to Banff and then call Dave and then meet up at the bench, that just before I took the car, I thought, ooh, Chantal loved essential oils. I remember her loving bergamot and peppermint. So Carrie had a bergamot essential oil in one of her essential oil bags, and I had peppermint. So I took both and I rubbed both of them on the bench. And yeah, maybe eventually my thoughts would have taken me to that combination to honor her at the bench. And yet I just let the magic come through, and it was perfect. It was perfect. What I'm learning from this is that planning would have been me controlling, stressing out that it would not happen, being in the energy of, I need to plan this because I'm afraid that it's not going to happen, instead of, I'm not going to plan because I trust that if it gets to happen, it'll happen. And that same day that we went to the bench, Carrie, Pierre Michel, and I, we walked up Tunnel Mountain, which offers you a view of Rundle Mountain. It offers you a view of Banff. It's like an accessible 1-hour hike to have a beautiful view of the mountains there. I mean, look at the view. If you're looking at this video, I'm sharing a photo of just the beauty out there. And okay, this is more magic that happened, that if I had planned, I would not have been part of this beauty from nature. We saw a herd of about 50 elk crossing a turquoise frozen river to go graze on the leftover grass of a golf course by being up at the top of Tunnel Mountain. And here's what impressed me is that it was not planned. It was such a surprise. And I felt like we were these birds flying over the hidden parts of nature that you never get to see as a human because they're out farther away. And so I felt so lucky to see that. And this is how it was. there was one elk at the beginning of the line who was the one to kind of test the ice, and you could see the gentleness in the elk's movement, and one foot after the other kind of going gently on the ice. And then you saw the other ones in a lineup following its footsteps. And then they all arrived in a herd in like the middle bank before they got to cross another river to get to the grazing place. And wow, I felt like time was stopping for us to witness their trust of crossing a frozen river, their innocence of what's underneath, really. And is the ice going to crack, as they are heavy animals and there's 50 of them? And we could also witness the younger ones being like, oh, I'm not sure, stalling on the river, and eventually feeling the energy of trust move forward as they would just continue and cross the river. It was so beautiful. It was wow. And that moment was just a mirror to the trust energy that I'd been embodying. And that allowed me to be in the present moment way more than looking at my watch and being like, okay, we need to hurry because we have this plan in this amount of time. No, there was no plan. The plan was to be in the present moment, and that was perfect. So another mindset shift that I want to share with you is, for example, there's 2 hours difference in the time zones between Mountain Time and Eastern Time. And the old Claudia-Sam mindset would have thought, okay, I need to go to bed early during the next 2 days so that the time change doesn't affect me when I get back. Isn't that such a like Debbie Downer? Like, okay, you're not really appreciating where you are because you're wanting to control everything and make sure that you're not missing out on everything when you get back as well. And the new me was like, it's only 2 hours. There's no need to focus on the time change at all. Just enjoy yourself. There's a difference in energy there too. And I feel like the basic energy is trust. And the allowing, the trust for me goes directly hand in hand with allowing. So I want to offer you 2 questions to tune into. The first one is, where in your life can you let go a little bit more and allow? Where in your life can you let go a little bit more and allow? Don't try to make sense of this. The answer will come from your higher self, your intuition, your heart. It might come from you walking and then outside and then seeing something that has you receive the message. Where in your life can you let go a little bit more and allow? And allow the answer to come on its own time. The other question I have for you is, what do you want to attract? What do you want to attract? And when I ask this question, I think of just for the trip that I went on, what I wanted to attract was joy, was fun, was curiosity, was playfulness. And I attracted that. I attracted that. I wanted to attract flow. I attracted that because I chose present moment over planning. I chose to trust and allow over controlling and an energy of lack. So what do you want to attract? Another thing before we close that I attracted is one of the professionals, the Chinese medicine doctor and acupuncturist physiotherapist that I loved to have sessions with when I lived there was Patty Meyer from Matotisan. She's a magical worker. If you're ever in Canmore, check her out. And she's booked like a month in advance. Okay. So I thought, well, I'm still going to give it a shot, but I'm not attached to, if she says no because she has no time, I totally understand. And she had a cancellation that day. So I was able to see her. If I would have asked her this question like a month or 3 weeks ago when her schedule was planned, maybe, things would not have worked out for me to have this cancellation spot and see her and feel so rejuvenated and open and free and flowy and playful. So are you willing to trust and allow? Are you willing to loosen the grip a little? And one of the things that I've mentioned, I feel like that's what I talked about today, is choosing the present moment instead of future thinking or using the evidence of the past to let you in on feeling like you might not live the experience you want because the past would have told you like that is what used to happen, when you can choose to be in the present moment and create new experiences. You can choose to be in the present moment and create new experiences. Not planning equals perfection. Even if it's a little hard because you love to check the to-do lists and you love to have like the organization going, where in your life can you allow a little bit more? I'd be so curious to know how this playground works out for you and even how it feels to play in that allowing and trusting energy. Let me know. Go to Claudia-Sam-soulcoaching.com, click on contact, and you can reach me there. You can also friend me on Facebook and let me know, hey, I listened to the Be Happy Now show, and I just want to let you know that I'm trying allowing, or that if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Be sure to listen to the Be Happy Now show anywhere you get your podcast, and come to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Leave a 5-star review. Let us know how you love the Be Happy Now show and in what ways it's actually helping you be in the now. Thank you for being here. Thanks for allowing me to share this experience with you. It was so nurturing, so enjoyable for me that I hope that a little glimpse of that is being handed over to you. See you again soon. Bye. If you want to align with the present moment, if you want to keep flexing your soul connection muscle and really get to remember who you really are in this present moment, in this loving, trusting energy, if you want to reconnect with a spiritual practice, I would love to invite you in Align, a tune-in journey to remembering who you are. And that is a year container with like souls who are on a mission to live life in alignment with who they're here to be. If you're curious about that, again, go to Claudia-Sam-soulcoaching.com, click on contact, let me know you're interested in Align, and I'll get you hooked up. You've been listening to the Be Happy Now show with me, Claudia-Sam. Flex your soul connection muscle and be your inner guide to fulfillment and purpose. You are worthy of being you and of connecting to what stops you from living the life you are meant to live. Access more soul connection coaching at Claudia-Sam-coaching.com.